So has anyone heard about the myriad of names that George Santos uses, including his drag name?
Oh, no, no, I haven't. And I don't know why when you said like just the delivery of that line.
The way you kind of snuck that in at the end, like including his drag name, which is the biggest headline of the day. Like every day there's a new, very fiery George Santos thing that comes out, like, oh, he was Carol Bastion's husband, or, you know, like, but like this one is actually like a thing. He was in Brazil, a drag queen, or at least in this one blurry picture that has come out.
Yep.
I'm disappointed that the picture isn't better.
Me too.
Same. I want to make sure. I mean, there are lots of people. I mean, one of the first things that you learn when you're a gay is to judge. And it's judging the makeup qualities, the tuck qualities, the outfit qualities. And because of the blurriness of the photo, we're really not able to carry that. And so it's just entirely frustrating.
Yeah, it's waist up too. So there's no tuck qualities to go from there either, I think.
Exactly.
But I love to learn this about the gay community. What was his drag name? Do we know?
I read it and I remember being unimpressed by it.
Okay.
There were no plays on words. There was just it was like
Kitara. It sounds like a little sword.
There's like so many more fun things to do, and that sounds very much. I mean, sometimes when they sound like that, they sound like it's a name that they've had for a while in their head, because lots of people think of like really funny names.
Right, and usually like there's like a phallic reference too, which is always fun. Yeah.
But just like
Kitara. Yeah, I mean that's sure reminds me of katana, a sword. A little bit of it's a stretch, you know.
Yeah.
It's a stretch it.
Stretching it.
No, it was above the waist, so we can't see.
It's a tuck. Also, did you see the headline about a guy who was like, my dog was dying and I needed money for surgery, and George was like, give me $3,000 and I will save your dog, and he ran away with it and the dog died?
Oh my God.
I did not see that
today as well.
And that is entirely believable given the string of lies that have come out.
The only story about him that came out that made me want to like him was the drag one. That's it. Everything else, it's like, who is this guy?
Well, I think the funniest thing that I heard recently was that given the amount of lies, the rapacious rate at which he's been sending these out, you'd think he'd be better at it. And he's just not, because he's getting found out all over the place.
Yeah. Rapacious, I think, is a good term for it. It's just somebody who just doesn't stop, right?
Yes.
And they build lie upon lie upon lie, and maybe they're good at the beginning, but sooner or later it catches up. This has been a story that I have enjoyed so completely. And as mainstream media interviews him, this man is terrified. But also, I don't know. Does he leave office though? Like, there's a part of me that's like, there's no way the Republicans push him out of the House.
No, because it's
and there's no way he leaves.
I don't think so. No. He's going to double down.
I mean, look at the craziness that we got from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then you turn around and she got reelected. So it's just clearly that's what certain folks want.
Yeah. And like, he's a full-on grifter in the way that, like, I don't think we've ever seen with a politician, where it's like so hilariously a person who cannot stop lying, that like he's gonna come out just fine money-wise after his 2-year stint in the legislature.
I can see Miss Doubtfire 2 entirely coming out. Or no, not Miss Doubtfire. Sorry, Birdcage 2.
Oh my God!
Republican politician in drag at the end.
I didn't know this reference. I was like, Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. I don't know. Oh God, I got to get up to date on my drag movies, man.
Robin Williams, Nathan Lane.
You've not watched the Birdcage?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my God, it's hilarious. It's so hilarious.
What do I need to know before I watch this?
Homework? Well, what you need to know is that you have homework.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm writing it down. I've been watching the Bourne series, so this is going to be a switch.
That is
yeah. That's
so
the Whiplash-worthy 180.
I am so down for the emotional roller coaster you are about to be on.
For the birdcage or the end of the Bourne series?
Both when you're doing that like side by side.
Yeah, back and
Exactly.
forth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty sick.
it'll be a lot. Well, welcome back, everyone.
Oh yeah.
How about
That's
we
the
do
thing.
this? How about we talk some shit? Because it's been
Hell
too
yeah.
long.
It's
Oh,
my
God,
favorite
yes.
thing to do.
All right, let's go.
Yes.
Voices, things we say, voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Oh, hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And Shannon.
And PJ.
Oh yeah,
Sick.
it's been too long. We're back. It's 2023. It feels good.
An odd
Yeah.
number year.
Yeah, feels
It is-
damp.
2020
It
part
is-
3. We're here for
It
it.
is indeed an odd number year. And it is
That's what
indeed
we
damn.
have to say about that.
We are really, here's the thing about us, and I know that like all of the listeners really missed this. We are just full of like wildly accurate observations about the current state of things. So we come to you after a month-long break to say we are in an odd numbered year and it's incredibly damp.
Moist.
Now we're
out
done.
here.
We're done with the show.
All right.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thanks. It's been a great year, folks.
Join the Patreon. Bye.
See you in 2024.
We only do even number years from here on out.
But no Flo, no Skylar today. They will be back. But I don't know. I love it. I feel like I haven't seen much of Shannon or much of you, PJ, recently. So this will be fun. And we've got quite a doozy. But before we get into this doozy of a show, folks, I'd like to tell you about ways you can support us as a podcast. We
Mm.
love what we do. If you love what we do, why don't you support us? For as little as $5 a month, you can
Oh,
become
yeah.
a patron of Voices River City. Go to patreon.com/Voices River City and you'll get premium content such as me talking about pieces I've written in Jacobin, or Skylar and Flo talking about movies they've seen. That one's coming up actually in the next few days, the Skylar and Flo episode. I am incredibly pumped about it. They got it. Skylar had no electricity or water the night before they saw this movie. And then like he got up and went and saw this movie with her at 10 a.m. So I am incredibly pumped to hear this episode. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So look forward to that, folks, in the next few days. If you're not a patron yet, become a patron. You can listen to the earlier patron-only stuff and listen to what's to come, as well as this too. And we've got events coming up, which we try and do every year, and we will let you know as those come. But let's start. Let's start with the things that are happening in the world, because we haven't been talking about anything for a month. I've been staring at my dog for a month as it's raining outside.
Yeah, that's not my testimony, but
No,
I'm
not you
here
and
for
your
that vibe.
like 5 cats staring back at you, all black cats.
Just staring.
Just staring and blinking, but off, just to bug you.
Mm-hmm.
Threatening my life with
Yeah.
their glares.
Let's talk about, well, okay. So as we know, basically since Christmas, there have been torrential rains throughout California. Our region was hit particularly hard in the Sacramento area, Central Valley, as well as the Sierras to the east of the Central Valley. And we've kind of gotten record rain over the course of 2.5 weeks or so, to a degree where, we're halfway through the rainy season and we are already at 100% of the average annual rainfall precipitation
Expected by April 1st.
Yeah.
So literally like the entire season's worth, we've already gotten it.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And so obviously there have been a lot of effects on that, a lot of questions about can the dams hold enough water? Can our levees hold all of this water that's moving south, right down to LA? All of that has been pretty good. We've had a couple of levee breaks. not to diminish any of them, because there was one levee break just south of us in Sac County that did result in 2 drivers' deaths. So like there were, I believe, about 17 deaths throughout the state. Another very dangerous thing here in Sacramento was that with this incredibly damp land coming after a drought and weakened roots in all of our trees. We are the city of trees after all. So these torrential rains come with these, 70-mile-an-hour gusts of wind, and really massive trees have fallen down, not just on buildings, but on people. 2 unhoused folks on the, I believe on the American River Parkway, were killed in their tents when trees fell on them. And I think that's where we wanted to start the show, because I think we all know what our experiences were like dealing with the rain and just like staying in all the time and like trying to prep for it and all these things. But like, a lot of us have been wondering, like, what is it like for unhoused folks going through this? And, I think Shannon, you can give us kind of a window into that. So, at your place of work, you were spending all day, every day, sort of just triaging folks. Talk to us what it's been like the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, if you're in Sacramento, then you are keenly aware of what has happened in terms of rainfall and what that has looked like for the community of unhoused folks that are coming to the River District for support has just been it's been pretty chaotic. It's been a mixture of like a lot of stress, so much grief, and a ton of fear, combined with also the like gratitude that our guests were able to make it, like just that they were able to wake up the next day if they did in fact sleep. So like, people who are spending, and we've talked about this before, unhoused folks spend all day every day living with this stress about like what's next for them. Where's their next meal going to come from? Where's, a shower going to happen? When are they going to be able to get into clean clothes? All of these like things that those of us who have any sort of housing insecurity, like we just don't sort of think about that in the same way. And then add on to that extreme weather in a community that does not have the infrastructure to support rising waters and ensure people's safety, and then add to that a community that has been incredibly resistant to bringing up shelter beds and bringing up housing, and just like any sort of rapid response for unhoused folks. So you have like, there's people who show up and they're like, their
So
skin.
did we mention that, like, so Shannon runs a daytime emergency drop-in shelter for women experiencing homelessness and their children. And so she has seen this stuff firsthand. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I probably should have said that at the beginning.
New season. Hey, we're getting used to this.
Yeah, we're figuring it all out. So we have like people who are showing up who just like have not had the opportunity to dry off in days and weeks, and like their skin is just like completely raisined and so sensitive, and just like they're just like living through the discomfort and the pain of that experience, like not being able to get dry.
Well, and one of the things is that recently the dry, along with the dry that so many people were celebrating, was this cold that came along. And so on top of not being able to dry off, now you're getting much colder. And so we might see more hypothermia cases potentially.
Yeah, and I mean that's like when we talk about what is like triaging in an extreme weather situation look like, it is like literally trying to warm people's bodies with like warm towels and dry clothing and hot cups of coffee, um and like bins of water for them to warm their feet, of hot water for them to warm their feet in. Like this is there is so much intensity around just like the day to day and not knowing like, exactly what's going to happen when you get to work. You don't know who's going to show up in what condition, and you just have to be like as rested and as ready to respond as possible. And that's a really hard thing because you don't actually, there's no way to determine what could potentially come up on any given day. I think one of the things that was the most striking for me this time around, and my experience working homeless services in Sacramento is over a decade. And this time around, what was really striking to me was just how scared people were. Like listening to the stories of folks who talked about how like they were exhausted but just couldn't sleep because they could hear, those like 70-mile-per-hour winds that were cutting
Right.
through our city, and they could like hear creaking trees, and they like the rain was coming down sideways, and they were afraid to go to sleep because they weren't sure if they would wake up or if someone would get hurt in the middle of the night or if they would get trapped under a falling tree. Like there was a woman who said like all night long I just sat like with a flashlight hoping that the tree that it generally is like a sense
shelter.
of security, it's
Yeah.
Someone to anchor
shelter,
your tree to or your tent to in high winds.
right, that all of a sudden is a thing that is life threatening. um yeah, and so now it's about like recovery, and that's also a really difficult thing. It's been a long time, I think, since I don't know that we have historically ever had rain of this magnitude for this length of time. Um, and it really like it's only just begun, like in terms of the work that needs to be done to support people through the extreme weather.
I mean, usually we don't do this kind of front-ended, but like what can be done? How can people help?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I've been telling people is one, to just like remain in the knowing that unhoused folks are deeply traumatized by this community's lack of recognition for like the worthiness of their life and their security, um and that is evidenced by there still not being enough shelter beds and by there not being any sort of crisis response that is adequate for these like giant crises that are coming up. And so always just know that people are living with that like additional layer of trauma, and one way to ease that is to provide the people who are on the front lines, who are either trained or seasoned in this work, providing them with the tools to get the work done, to be able to meet the needs of folks that have lost like literally like all of their belongings to stormy weather. So, donating to places like, SAC DSA goes out and they do mutual aid work, and like NorCal Resist and the Sacramento Homeless Union, and Loaves and Fishes, of course, is one of those spaces, like ensuring that the people that unhoused folks are sort of like naturally driven to go to for support, making sure that we have what we need to help with the recovery period that is about to happen. So tents and tarps and tie downs and plastic sheeting and just like things to help rebuild are going to be really important because this storm wasn't one that just had people hunkered down. It was one that the storm was like literally ripping people's tents apart that were like brand new.
Yep.
So folks are really starting over. And, outside of offering those, like the in-kind support, I think that, I will always say that it's important for us to use our positions of privilege as housed people to amplify the needs of unhoused folks and to highlight the deficits that local government have created. So that takes us back to like, there needs to be broad stroke plans that are like forward thinking to respond to extreme weather. Like Sacramento was not ready for this.
What was the
storm.
response?
They're
it was
opening
whack.
two or three warming centers for multi-days and giving rides for once, but only from very specific locations to other locations. It wasn't kind of like a meet you where you're at type of thing. It was very much a come to us and we'll help you out type of thing.
And the capacity for these places wasn't that great, right? I mean, 100.
No, it was like
maybe 100, maybe 100.
Yeah, there was. So one of the spaces had capacity for 20 people, another had capacity for like 50, and then there's just like straight up like respite locations where like, this is the other thing, like when you hear like warming or respite center, these are not spaces that are created so that folks can actually be like restored through rest.
Right.
They
feel
are
at home, feel comforted. Like,
Yeah,
If you're
no,
lucky,
my
you get a
space.
pad, hard floor, lights on all night type of situation. Like rare, like it's just
and this kind of, the respite centers that were afforded to folks these centers were not, it was like the storm started and then all of a sudden it was like, oh fuck, we've got these storms, like I guess we probably should do something. But like the absolute most like basic ass shit is what was done.
Mhm.
Like, and and here's the thing, I do want to say, because I think I can do a lot of shit talking and a lot of shit kicking and get really fucking angry about how the city and the county have not done enough to support the survival of unhoused people. But I do want to recognize that there are people working in those spaces who do give a shit and are trying to push that agenda of like humanizing unhoused people and meeting their actual like housing and shelter needs. So this is not like, this criticism is not to say that there aren't people in those spaces doing that hard work, but it is to say that the work, like it's the political will in this community is like fucking non-existent when it comes to moving toward actual solutions.
So what is the infrastructure we have right now? The last point in time count, which is the one night count in January of an odd year. So it was January of 2021, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong there. They found well over 9,000, I think it was around 9,300 folks living unhoused within Sacramento County. An incredible large percentage of that was unsheltered folks, right?
Yeah.
What's the number of shelter beds we have in the region?
2,300,
2,300, 1,000 by the city of Sacramento, 1,300 put out there by the county. So, obviously the rest of those folks, give or take, were at that time unsheltered. And maybe I'm missing something here, but like a study did come out this year saying that our city is per capita, as far as unhoused folks goes, the highest percentage of them were in like the top 3 of them being unsheltered, which means they don't have a roof over their head on any given night, not even a shelter bed, not permanent supportive housing, not a hotel room, none of that shit. Like that's how bad our region is failing. That I just wanted to like set that in stone for folks as you keep going, Shannon.
Yeah, like Sacramento gets a big giant F because there just is not this region is failing, and it's failing hard. And that is like, I think where the space that I have come to is like, we are watching the numbers of unhoused people who die outside rise exponentially every year. Like, people's life expectancy is completely fucked if you're living unhoused. And it makes total sense when you think about the traumatic experience that is being outside in Sacramento, right? And we're like, there has been so much work done. Like, we, during our wrap-up show last year, we talked about the like really excellent work that has been done by Robin Epley and T. Clift at the B to like highlight the injustice. And it's like, even still with these stories that are told that are true, that amplify that people are suffering, that people are dying on the streets of Sacramento. I mean, 2 people were crushed by trees during this storm. Intense. And there still is not enough being done. Like, there's a lot of like, high fives going around for affordable housing plans and how we're going to like funnel money here and there for these like long-term, like, fucking that shit isn't going to happen tomorrow. But tomorrow, what will happen is that an unhoused person will get very close to death, if not die, on the streets of Sacramento. Like, this, it's so fucking aggravating that there is still not enough being done for these like human beings. These are humans that are living on our streets that are suffering.
Well, especially when you see the amount of investment going out, it's like, where is that going? How is that not doing anything? How is the impact so small or to be negligible at a certain point?
Yeah. And like and we're the assholes for criticizing,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I don't like it. Just like, make it make sense, bro. Because it just like doesn't.
So, I mean, speaking of us being the assholes, apparently advocates are the assholes to District 1 Sacramento County Supervisor Phil Serna. I didn't watch this full clip, but shout out to Kula and her crew at Sacramento
Social Justice Politicor.
That's what it is. Social Justice Politicor, for taking this clip and elevating it. What was in this clip that this supervisor said?
He said, I believe that Boise is a bullshit ruling and it needs to be tested.
Folks, I gotta do the fact thing here before I get angry. Boise is a landmark civil rights federal court ruling that determined, and when you hear this will make sense to you. When authorities find you and you are unhoused and you're sleeping somewhere, they cannot rouse you if there are no shelter beds or options for you in the region. Shelter, like if there's no indoor shelter options for you that they can offer you, they cannot fuck with you. They cannot move you. They cannot take your things. If they do, it's a violation of your 8th Amendment right. 8th Amendment, that's cruel and unusual punishment. Simple. It's cruel and unusual punishment. And Phil fucking Serna, this guy who, folks, and like even I at times had said this, like, oh, you must be the most progressive person on the Sacramento County Board of Soups. This motherfucker is saying this about the Boise ruling. Keep going. Sorry.
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, he basically thinks that in spite of what this, like, apparently the county attorney is telling him, which is they're trying to protect themselves. And And even a lawyer commented on a post that I saw that said this is going to cost the county hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like, yes, because it doesn't accomplish anything. All it does is what they've always done, which is kick the can down the road, act like they've done something different, keep doing the same thing, and then get pissed off at unhoused folks like they're the ones that aren't being responsive. And it's like, you haven't done anything different.
This makes me so mad. I just can't believe that. And maybe it's just like because he's a part of this petit bourgeois space where he's always talking with folks that are like, oh, I can't, that's just an eyesore, blah, blah, blah. Like he falls into this reactionary mindset that it like, are we not past this yet? Are we not? Or do we have to name you as the enemy?
And at one point, he had the gall in the video to say that Boise existing was preventing people from getting from supposed options that exist. And it's like the only option that exists if Boise is staying in the way is literally putting them in jail. That's the only option that Boise stops from happening. That's it.
This is what happens when you have leadership that is so completely out of touch with the issues that they are charged with like stewarding, right? Like you have this guy who is speaking, from the dais
paternally,
confidently, as if he knows shit about fuck when it comes to what's available for unhoused people, but he clearly does not get it. And he doesn't get it because he's choosing not to get it. That's the thing. We have these leaders who have access. They have access not only to advocates who are on the ground, but they could have access to people who are actively struggling, right? They could go out and talk to the experts, which are unhoused folks, and ask them how to best address this crisis. But instead, you stay real fucking comfortable, and also you stay real fucking stupid, because then you say some shit like that's on the record, which only later is it like that's when you say like this shit's gonna cost the fucking county squillions of dollars. Yeah, man, because you think the court is gonna be like hella excited about seeing some like fucking ham hock sitting on the dais talking about this, like Boise, it's a bunch of bullshit. Dude.
Ham hock Phil.
Yeah.
It's maddening. And like this guy is a product. He's a product of political nepotism in this town. And that's what's most maddening about it. Like, if he was a first generation politician, and be like, oh, I guess he's like not a smart guy, like whatever, he just got voted in. But like, you are doing horrible things to your family's legacy, Phil, and it's sad to see.
Yeah, I think, the more time goes on, the more intense the crisis becomes, and the more it is just like as clear as something that's super fucking clear, that there's just like nothing.
We're nailing it. We're nailing our episode back, folks.
There's like nothing that is being done for people. Like it just.
No, well, because one of the things that he came up with was when people were complaining that they weren't doing enough, he literally had the city staff or county staff put together a list of exactly how many programs they were working, that they had in the works or that were currently going on. And it was just like, dude, not getting the message. If you have that many projects that are working currently and you still have 9,300 people experiencing homelessness, it's not getting done, and your curiosity ends. Like, it doesn't go, why isn't this working? No transparency. It's literally like, got to be the unhoused folks. They just service averse.
Yeah. Can we bring it to a higher level here? Because maybe Phil's just it's trickle down ideonomics from Daddy Newsom, the governor of California.
Yeah.
The homeless czar, the self-appointed homeless czar.
Because Gavin Newsom, our Democratic governor who wants to be president of the United States, who can't who can't find the fucking wherewithal to just invest in low-income housing, which is how you solve homelessness. When he came out with his, first draft of the 2023 budget, he came out fucking elbows swinging against the unhoused community, saying the homelessness crisis is out of control. People that are criticizing it are right. We need to see progress, and that means we need to have a higher level of accountability. To him, what that means is more sweeps. Where is the quote on that? Do any of you have that?
It would take me a second to find it.
Said the government's call for local accountability should be matched by accountability from the state for no, that's not it. There's one part where he basically says that they need to needs to clean
he
up
calls
those
for more
people.
sweeps. Yeah, someone will find it sooner or later. I'll just keep talking. I'm good at that.
Fill the void.
So he's basically calling for more sweeps. Well, also, obviously we do not have the windfall that we had last year in California, because a big part of that is taxes, income taxes from our richest of the rich in the tech world. If you watch the stock markets, our friends at Meta/Facebook are not doing so hot. So we're not getting too many tax dollars from them, which is why we don't have the windfall that we had last year. Right. So Newsom is cutting dollars to things like, affordable housing in the long run. And, a number of these things. He removed $350 million from housing programs just this year. So what, and during this talk, he's done a big press push, and this motherfucker never talks to the press, but now he is. And he's saying that, well, municipalities need to take responsibility. It's all about municipalities. And obviously, there's plenty of culpability to go around. We just talked about the city. We talked about the county, shit is fucked at this level. But does not the buck stop with your governor of your state, the person who really begins and ends the conversation on where the purse strings are opened and closed with issues in the state? You want to be fucking president? Next year, our homelessness numbers are going to be even worse. There's no way unless you actually start investing in this.
Well, and he literally said he didn't want 276 different plans coming from local governments, and then turns around and doesn't provide any guidance as far as what a solution actually looks like. It's like, do your job then. I don't know. And then he pointed himself as the homelessness czar because there was none that he appointed, and he's literally doing nothing with regards to that as far as giving any sort of guidance to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen over and over and over again that when left to mayors of cities to come up with, problem solving, or not even problem solving, who, they're responsible for coming up with plans to address the crisis. It doesn't ever work super fucking well, because lots of times, you have these relationships with, in Sacramento, for example, it's all of this, kind of Nepo baby shit, where it's everybody knows everybody, and that's how really the way that you're going to get funded.
That's his wife's nonprofit, and they need the money, so we can go give them a contract.
And there's no space for people who are actually getting in there and doing the work and connect. And the people who have the solutions are thought of as as stakeholders instead of as experts who could really, really help address some of this shit. It's just also, what the fuck kind of leader is here's the thing, it's your fault that this shit is still fucked up, but I'm not going to help you. Like, I don't want 476 different strategies and goals. I don't want every city just running in different directions. We got to align some things.
Well, one of the things
he
that he said
literally named our mayor as the czar of homelessness, and then just quietly
or the
backed
homeless
away
task
from
force.
that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like quietly backed away from that.
Well, let's also not forget how he, like, in a big old fucking tantrum, was like, gonna hit this big old pause button on the funding that I said y'all can have. And we're all gonna get together, we're gonna have a meeting, and I'm gonna tell it like it is. And then he gets reelected, and it's like, oh, everything's fine. Here's the money.
Yeah,
thanks for coming to the meeting.
Let me read a small excerpt from just a brilliant piece from Josh Golke at the Sacramento Bee. He also is like a McClatchy editor, but I think he focuses with the Bee. Josh Golke, I think we can maybe start putting him up there with T. Clift and Robin. I think maybe we start calling Golke the Sacramento G. Here's the quote I've got from him.
I mean, okay. All right.
Well, his last name begins with a G, Shannon.
I know.
Okay. So here's his quote. Newsom, whose communication staff has documented his avid personal participation in clearing homeless camps. They did a fucking, by the way, this is a aside, a press release saying like, hey, our governor is behind 1,250 homeless sweeps. How many people do you think that killed? How many people's lives did that ruin? And they're bragging about it in press releases. This is a San Francisco mayor through and through, man. Like, this is incredible to me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Newsom, whose communication staff has documented his avid personal participation in clearing homeless camps, was particularly fixated on that politically powerful symbol of the festering problem. If local officials don't mount more determined efforts to bulldoze the state's burgeoning shantytowns, he said, he would be, quote, hard-pressed to make a case to the legislature to provide them $1 more. So to Shannon's point, he said, I will not give municipalities money if you don't terrorize your homeless communities.
Yeah. Well, and he literally
Stand
said,
up, man. Presidential
quotes
material.
in Now Matters literally said, we want more accountability. People have just had it. We want to see these encampments cleaned up, which tells me that you are not at all coming with a solution for the problem to help people. It's all about optics.
Man, and let me tell you, leaders heard that. They heard his message loud and clear, because the new mayor of LA recently at a press event in Venice was talking about how Venice needs to just reclaim their streets from unhoused folks who are living on them. Like,
she's talking out of both sides of her mouth too, though, right?
I mean, 100%. It's like, but I think what's happening is
That's
that
Karen Bass, by the way, folks, who's a Democrat who some folks, I mean, somewhat consider a progressive, but this is the fucking language you hear, especially when, Daddy Newsom is talking like that.
And it's so like, it is exactly what happens when a person who is in a position of leadership refuses to organize and refuses to offer any sort of direction one way or another. This is when he's just like, here's the problem and you fix it. And then he's using really shitty fucking language. Like, of course, people are going to then parrot that. Like, the mayors of cities are, of course, going to parrot that, because they also recognize that he could wake up and have a bad day and push pause on money that he's promised them. So they're just going to use his language. They're going to adopt the narratives that he is upholding. And it's not leadership. It's not fucking leadership. It's some weird, like, I don't know, Wizard of Oz person behind the curtain shit. I'm doing really good tonight.
No, you're nailing it.
I know all of my references perfectly.
I knows all of us are hitting our metaphors pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I am here to bring the best 2023 me.
You can just tell that they're all talking for their donors only. They're not talking to any people. They're not here for any long-term solutions. There's never going to be any permanent funding, which at the end of the day, like any advocate that you talk to is going to say the inconsistency of the money coming in for programs is one of the hugest problems, because that's why people are service resistant. If they are, it's because they don't trust the program's going to be there. They don't trust they're going to be treated with any sort of, humanity. They're not going to be dealt with like they have any sort of autonomy. And at the end of the day, who wants to be in that situation? Who wants to be in a parent-child situation when you're a full-grown adult and you've just had shitty ass shit happen to you?
It's also not like, I'm so fucking tired of this goddamn service resistant bullshit. It's not service resistance. It is 100% resistance to being treated like a piece of shit. It's 100%.
You slap me 10 times and then you're like, hey, here's $1. You think I'm gonna take it?
This is $1.
You.
Like, no.
Fuck you.
It's not like, because I think the other thing is that like these are not, let's just stop even calling these like pathetic excuses for programs like service providers, because they're not actually providing a service.
No.
What they're doing is providing a lot of like punitive ass leadership for folks who need that, right? Like when you're it's some weird like charity porn shit that like, it's not fucking service resistance. And I mean, there was that piece that was done in the Bee about some shit that went down with a local housing provider.
Yep.
That
Sac
like,
self-help housing. Yeah.
Sac self-help housing. Like, you think that's fucking service provision, bro? Like, it's not. That's not what the fuck it is. And so like, stop calling it that. People are just resistant to being treated like shit.
Yep.
Well put.
Which is what the guy at Sacks Self-Help Housing basically admitted to, was that initially he was literally getting slumlords to rent to the people that he was supposed to get housing, because they were the only ones who would rent to them. And then you turn around and find out, oh, these people would complain, and then they'd start getting harassed more because they were complaining about the fact that there are roaches and things weren't kept up, because they weren't being treated like basic human beings at the lowest level of what we require for most sort of housing. And it's just like, so what do you expect them to do? Why do you expect them to be okay with that? Because you don't view them as human beings who deserve that level of autonomy and to be treated like that.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot about like Democrats, like, hey, they're Democrats, right? Like, what's the common thread? Like, Democrats are here to help. But Newsom obviously is showing that he's not. Newsom is showing that he wants to be punitive, and he wants to show the unhoused community that I'm punitive before I am anything else. And someone might say, like, well, what about the California legislature, right? They have, out of 120 seats, that's 40 seats in the Senate, 80 seats in the Assembly, they have 94 seats just like tucked away. You know, super duper quadruper majority. Some good things might be able to happen there, right? But I was poking around on, I like, obviously there's and I've got many friends within the progressive caucus of the Democratic Party, and the language they use, your language is like pretty Marxist language, a lot of you, it's pretty good. But I look at the legislators that they have that are in it. There's 29 progressive caucus legislators. And I did a quick run through, spent 2 hours on this shit today. But looking at their top 10 donors in the last like 2 years, right? So the last election cycle, basically. And out of those, there's 29. 29 is a record, right, for that caucus. So good for them. We have 29 people who are like, I am progressive in a sense that I will join this caucus. But out of those 29 people, 11 of them have taken money from CREPAC. CREPAC being the California Real Estate Political Action Committee. Those 11 people, and this is probably more than those 11, but this is only out of the top 10 donors, because I wasn't going to go through the thousands of every single campaign today. So So there's probably more folks, in this space. And so my question is, how can we trust our legislators to do things that will be good for renters, or do things that will increase the amount of low-income housing, which will potentially lower the, pricing of really rich assholes housing? How can we trust these legislators if they're taking all of this money to legislate for the little guy, right? And this is just the Progressive Caucus, right? 11 people took $167,700. That's over $15,000 per person in the Progressive Ledge Caucus, right? So where do you think the mods are? How much money do you think the fucking mods are taking from the real estate folks? We got a problem, and it's big. And my only caveat here is I started poking around because I'm like, these are some weird numbers. And I'm like, I think some names are missing, because there are 3 senators who won Dem on Dem races that are fantastic. And they're like, they're the progs, Wahab, Menjivar, and Smallwood Cuevas. They're not on here. You go through their top 10 donors and they are fucking aces. They're good people, but it's like, why are they not a part of the Progressive Caucus? So I've got questions there. We can reach out to our leadership friends over there on that, but that was really interesting to me. But all of this is to say, can we trust our legislature to do anything on this? A study came out that said, all you got to do, $8 billion a year, affordable housing, boom, 12 years, you fix this. You house the 170,000 people who are unhoused right now. Will you do it, Gavin Newsom? He said, fuck no.
And we're spending $15 billion right now per year. So I don't understand this. It's always been that the solutions, the actual equitable solutions are actually way cheaper than the solutions they come up with. It's way cheaper to house people than to stick them in a jail. Well,
because equity does nothing for upholding the oligarchy. It does nothing for upholding these fucking bullshit ass fake news leaders. It's just.
And without false scarcity, all the prices in housing would drop, all the rents would drop, because all of a sudden there isn't that fake pressure to,
And for folks who don't know, oligarchy means basically a government that is run by the moneyed class, the interests of great amounts of capital. And studies have come out in recent years that said the United States is 100% an oligarchy. California, listen, I just read off those numbers. Tell me it's not an oligarchy in itself, too. We've got a fucking problem here.
Well, I've actually seen analysis where they track the concerns and the views of the rich and the concerns and the views of the lower income, and they track the votes in Congress and both state and the national level, and they track the rich. They're just doing what their donors want them to do. That's it at the end of the day.
Yep.
Some whack ass shit, man. You know what? Here's the thing. I just got back from 4 days of living my best life at the Madonna Inn. And now I'm fucking
You were showing
pissed.
some racy pictures, by the way, from the Madonna Inn.
Oh, whatever, tits are tits.
Mostly tits, yeah.
That was a whole experience. What a time to be alive. To be at a bachelorette party at the Madonna Inn. Just drinking all of the booze.
I mean, I feel like cone bras are the first thing you get when you walk in the door. Is that not a thing?
No, you just take your bra off and you don't put it back on.
Oh, I thought it was like Jesus's mom, the Madonna.
Oh no, I was thinking totally, 80s.
And I was like, Shannon, this is off the rails for the Lord's mother.
Wait, for reals though, you don't know the Madonna Inn?
Yeah, I mean, you told me a little bit about it before you left.
Oh.
Anyway, you were going on about a thing. Sorry, I took us off the rails.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, the thing I was going on about is just there is I think that there's a lot of value, and I also recognize my privilege as I say this, to disconnect for a little bit and recharge and just be afforded the space where I worked while I was gone, but not in the same way. But then like coming back and having these conversations and just like, there's so much work to be done. There's so much fucking work to be done here. And, I'm grateful for a space like Sacramento where we have so many like hardcore fucking like dedicated ass people who will get out there and do and like get shit done. But also just like, I think this conversation for me really like it highlights just how much of that work there still is to be done, right? And that's not to be like a Debbie Downer, because I know that that's like my general vibe. That's like not what I'm trying to do. I'm like, it's just more a recognition of like how far we have come in terms of like building up a community of people who like give a shit and are like movement minded. But just as that has happened, the workload and the things that need to be addressed just continue to like fucking multiply.
It's like
There's so
Sisyphean.
much.
And the
Yeah.
continual gaslighting doesn't help. It just
No,
makes you feel
yeah.
like you're constantly crazy, and you're just like, no, this is what I'm seeing, and you're saying I'm not seeing it. Fuck off.
It's
Yeah.
fucking exhausting.
I mean, I have little thoughts about how I think we're making some progress, but playing my role as the sweet summer child, like I think we've cornered the conversation. I don't think that the fascist rhetoric will fly today, like within this region, and I think like Serna hopefully will feel it hard and swift, the response to that kind of fucking talk. And I am inspired every day by people younger than us doing work, and we don't know what we don't know about our leaders in our region today and what they'll do, and we don't know what we don't know about those folks, those 3 senators I mentioned at the state level, like who are more progressive than the progressive caucus, apparently. Like what will they do? How will they stand? And you just keep doing what you're doing. Like I've got a lot of respect for the folks who do work outside of electoralism, and they a lot of it is organizing in its own accord. That, and I'm speaking about both of you. I'm speaking about a lot of folks. I'm speaking about a lot of the punks out there, anarchists. I'm speaking about a lot of the folks that go out and get their hands in it and like literally try to help folks that are in danger in real time, because the city and county and state refuse to hold up their end of the what is it, the social contract, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that gives me a little bit of faith. I just want to throw in my little sweet summer child.
What I appreciate, I think one of the things that keeps me positive is the fact that they have to co-opt our language in order to make any progress. And even then, we see that the people that are voting for things like Measure O actually want shelter. It's just that they were able to manipulate it so that it didn't have to be any shelter. And so we need to figure out how we work around that and how we play it better than them.
Yep. And, we're waiting for y'all to actually enforce Measure O. We're ready for you. So let us know.
Heard.
All right. Well, what a wonderful first episode back.
Hot damn. It really was just a total joy.
Right? Yep. Yes.
Barn burner, really in all respects.
Yeah.
Anything we want to add? What's our, what was our New Year's resolution? I don't know.
New Year's resolutions are trash.
Yes.
I had
my
none of
hot
that.
take.
Yeah.
Just
Mine
like
was, I got nothing.
fuck a New Year's resolution, and instead just like New Year's resolutions that just like live in your head or like uphold the like whack structure of capitalism can go straight to shit. But
exactly. We don't have to be productive.
Yeah. I mean, instead, take
And you can't
that New
change
Year's
yourself immediately like that,
Yes.
like this is not how bettering
No.
ourselves works.
Take that New Year's resolution energy and transfer
Shove it
it
up your
to
ass.
shove it up your
anus.
beehole and
Your hole of choice.
Mhm.
fine, pick a hole and shove it there, and then dig into the heart beating in your chest and help another human.
That's beautiful, Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm like basically a poet, so it's cool.
Yeah, just to run out this episode, big shout out to our new comrade, council member Sean Laloe of Sacramento. Sounds like he is kind of hinting towards a vacancy tax. So we'll see where that goes, Sean, baby. Thank you for being on our side.
Sean, baby.
Right.
Shall we call it?
Yeah, sick show, y'all. See you next week.
Yeah. Can't fucking wait.
I'm just sad because I look forward to the show coming back, and I'm like, no, I can't watch it. No, I can't listen to it. I already listened to it.
Because you're on it. Oh,
Yeah.
God, no. You're gonna listen and you're gonna be like, I sound fucking brilliant.
No, exact opposite.
Nailed it.